The gentle truth Adam learned after losing everything? What nobody tells you about Adam is this: his real story didn't begin in Eden. It began the morning after he lost everything. When perfection was stripped away, and he woke up in a world where his body ached, where thorns cut his hands, where every breath reminded him of what he'd lost. Yet here's the secret hidden in ancient texts. Adam didn't just survive the fall, he discovered something beyond perfection, something that could only be found in the breaking. You see, if you've made it this far in life, if you're still here despite losing the things that once made you feel invincible, then you already know Adam's deepest secret. The miracle isn't that we were once perfect. The miracle is that we're still standing. In the ancient text called The Life of Adam and Eve, there's a moment most people never hear about. It's 300 years after Eden, and Adam is sitting by a river, watching the water flow over stones worn smooth by time. His hands, once unmarked by labor, are now scarred from years of working the stubborn earth. His back aches, his eyes have seen too much sorrow, and yet something in him has grown stronger than it ever was in paradise. This is the Adam nobody talks about, the one who learned that survival itself is a form of worship. You know this Adam, don't you? Because you've been him. You've felt the sharp edge of mornings when your body doesn't move like it used to. When you made coffee for people who never thanked you. When you smiled through conversations that felt like swallowing glass. When you held together what was falling apart, knowing no one could see the cracks in your foundation. You've folded laundry that would be dirty again by evening. You've paid bills that seemed to multiply overnight. You've answered, "How are you?" with "fine," when fine was the furthest thing from the truth. You've stood in grocery store lines feeling invisible, walked hallways where your footsteps echoed louder than your voice ever did. You've cleaned up messes you didn't make. You've forgiven people who never asked for forgiveness. You've given your best years to jobs that barely knew your name, to relationships that took more than they gave, to dreams that seemed to slip further away with each passing season. And through it all, you kept showing up, even when showing up felt like the hardest thing you'd ever done, even when your heart felt like a stone in your chest, even when you whispered to the darkness, "I don't know how much more I can take." But here's what the ancient scribes recorded, what heaven's quiet witnesses have always known. God's eyes never stopped searching for you. While you were pushing through those silent, aching days, while you were learning to breathe around the weight in your chest, the divine was keeping count of every unnoticed sacrifice, every tear that fell in empty rooms. The life of Adam and Eve tells us that after the fall, God didn't abandon humanity to figure it out alone. Instead, something beautiful happened. God began to watch more intently, not less. Every calloused hand that still reached out to help. Every heart that chose kindness when it had every reason to turn bitter. Every soul that whispered prayers into the void, not knowing if anyone was listening. Heaven has been recording it all. Your quiet endurance has not gone unnoticed. The way you held your family together when everything was falling apart. The way you found reasons to be grateful when gratitude felt impossible. The way you chose hope when hope seemed foolish. God's attention isn't drawn to the perfect, it's drawn to the persistent, to those who know what it means to lose everything and still choose to love, to build, to try again. True strength, Adam learned, isn't the absence of weakness, it's continuing to show up in your weakness. Strength was never about being unbreakable. It was about letting yourself be broken and still believing in tomorrow. It was about discovering that the very things that scarred you also taught you how to heal others. Think of the tree that grows in rocky soil. Its roots go deeper than the tree in rich earth ever could. The resistance makes it stronger. The struggle gives it character. When storms come, it's the tree that's wrestled with adversity that stands firm. Your struggles haven't weakened you. They've given you roots that go deeper than comfort ever could. The parts of you that feel most worn down are often the parts that have grown most beautiful. The heart that's been broken knows how to hold others gently. The soul that's walked through darkness knows how to offer light. But I know there's a voice that whispers to you sometimes. It's not the voice of truth, but it's persistent. It sighs rather than screams. It doesn't demand attention, but it never fully goes away. It's the voice that says, "What's the point? Why keep trying? Wouldn't it be easier to just Stop. This voice visited Adam too. On the hardest days, when the ground yielded nothing but stones and thorns, when Eve looked at him with eyes that held too much sadness, when the memory of Eden felt like a knife twisting in his chest, the voice would whisper, "You could rest now. You've done enough. No one would blame you." But Adam learned something that the voice didn't want him to know. Feeling tired doesn't mean you're finished. Wanting to quit doesn't mean you should. Sometimes the desire to give up is just proof of how much you've already given. It's your soul's way of saying, "Look how far I've carried you. Look how much I've endured." The voice of quitting isn't your enemy. It's just tired, and tired voices need rest, not obedience. What if I told you something that might change everything? What if the timing you've been questioning is actually perfect? What if the season you're in right now, the one that feels too late, too hard, too overwhelming, is exactly when God planned for your breakthrough to come? In the ancient texts, there's a beautiful truth. Heaven's timeline is different from ours. What looks like delay to us is preparation to God. What feels like an ending is often a beginning we can't see yet. Adam spent decades thinking his best days were behind him, only to discover that his most meaningful years were still ahead. You see, God doesn't work by our calendars. Divine timing considers things we can't see. The readiness of hearts that need to receive what you have to give. The removal of obstacles you don't even know exist. The preparation of soil that will let your next season flourish. What if you're not behind schedule? What if you're right on time? What if every detour was actually leading you exactly where you need to be? So let me ask you to consider something small, something that doesn't require you to change everything at once or make grand gestures, something that honors where you are right now while gently opening the door to where you're going. Light a candle tonight, not for any special reason, just because darkness doesn't have to be the only option. Write one word on a piece of paper, a word that represents something you still hope for, and put it somewhere you'll see it. Take one photograph of something that made you smile, however briefly. Call someone who's been on your mind, not to have a long conversation, just to say, "I was thinking of you." Plant something, even if it's just a seed in a small pot. Something that will grow while you're not watching, that will remind you that life has a way of continuing, of reaching toward light. These aren't solutions to everything, they're just ways of saying yes to the possibility that your story isn't over, that there's still beauty to be found, still connections to be made, still reasons to keep going. Because here's what Adam discovered in those years after paradise. Survival itself is a form of art, not just staying alive, but learning to create beauty from broken pieces, learning to find meaning in ordinary moments, learning that a life doesn't have to be perfect to be precious. You are a masterpiece in progress. Every scar tells a story of resilience. Every wrinkle is a map of laughter and tears, of late nights caring for others, of worries carried and joys celebrated. Every gray hair is a medal of honor, proof that you've lived long enough to accumulate wisdom, long enough to see seasons change and return. Your life has been a mosaic, and what looks like chaos up close reveals itself as incredible beauty from heaven's perspective. The broken places aren't flaws in the design. They're where the light gets in. They're where grace becomes visible. They're where your humanity touches the divine. The ancient writers tell us that in Adam's later years, he would sit with his children and grandchildren, and they would ask him about Eden. They expected him to grow sad, to mourn what was lost. Instead, his eyes would light up and he would say, "Let me tell you about the garden. But first, let me tell you about what came after, because that's where I learned who I really was." This is your legacy too. Not the perfection you've lost, but the person you've become in the losing. Not the mistakes you've made, but the wisdom you've gained from making them. Not the dreams that didn't come true, but the character that was forged in the disappointment. Your story is not ending, it's deepening. Every day you choose to continue is a day you're writing something beautiful into the universe. Every act of kindness, every moment of courage, every decision to love instead of fear is creating ripples that will touch lives you'll never know about. The children who watch how you handle difficulty are learning resilience. The friends who see you choose grace under pressure are learning forgiveness. The world that witnesses your refusal to give up is learning hope. You are not just surviving your story, you are teaching others how to survive theirs. So receive this blessing. You who have learned that strength isn't perfection, may you know that your existence is not an accident but a gift. May you understand that your struggles have prepared you for a purpose only you can fulfill. May you trust that the God who never stopped watching over Adam has never stopped watching over you. May you wake each morning knowing that you carry within you something the world needs, not because you're perfect, but because you're you, scarred and beautiful, broken and healing, human and holy. This is the truth Adam discovered, and it's the truth written in your bones. The real miracle isn't perfection. The real miracle is that broken things can still shine with the light of heaven. And you, dear one, are shining still.